Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here. I'm Jay Fidel here in ThinkTech Talks, and indeed, we have Sandra O'Hara. She is a tech recruiter, don't you know, with the Deco right here downtown Honolulu, but it's actually a national company, isn't it?
International.
Sorry. Say hello to the people, Sandra.
Hi there. Pleasure to be here.
So, you know, I mean, what tech show series could be complete without talking to a recruiter, a tech recruiter? Not only today, but from time to time. We have to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on, just as you do.
Absolutely.
So, Sandra, tell us what it's like to be a tech recruiter in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Well, it's a never-ending challenge. I tell people it's almost like being a marriage broker, because what it is that when you make the correct match, it is phenomenal. And so a person has a wonderful new job, a company is thrilled to have a wonderful new employee, and that's the match. So that's the goal. And whenever I'm doing the interviews of either the candidate or my client, that's what I'm trying to achieve. So that's basically what a tech recruiter does.
Yeah, well, it's important for the tech industry. Tech industry has to be dynamic. It has to be facile. Things have to, fluid is the word I was looking for. That you have to be able to move at will, and you have to be able to climb the ladder. Which reminds me to ask you about that new bill that is actually wending its way through the legislature that invalidates non-compete agreements. We talked about
That's
that
right.
at the HICTA program last week. So how do you feel about that? Is that going to facilitate things?
I think that's going to give opportunities to a lot of the employees that are really strapped, that can't move from one job to another, especially if a better opportunity comes along. So I think it definitely is going to help the employees. But I also think, even from the employer standpoint, I think not to keep somebody as a slave or as a captured person, I think is going to also be good for them as well. So I think it actually will help both sides.
Yeah, and I think they should appreciate that. Just as the employee can move, so can the employer, without fear that that somebody is going to go after him too.
Exactly.
Because that's what happens in these disputes.
Exactly.
They go after everybody.
Right. Right.
So okay, well, and HICTA, by the way, stands for what?
It stands for Hawaii Information Communications
Technology
Association. Right.
And it's a merger of a couple of organizations
Correct.
a year or two ago.
Correct.
And you go down there and everybody gets around you, they want to talk to you because you might be their next job.
That's right.
Sandra is at all of these programs, and she's like the godmother of the industry.
I've been around for a long time.
And a lot of the people there, they know her. So Adecco, what is Adecco now? You have is this an Adecco book? It's an Adecco book.
It's actually our new salary guide. We do one every year, and believe it or not, it actually includes Hawaii in it. So it's quite current, and we give those to the employers as a help for them if they're interested, and there's no cost. They simply have to call me, we can get them one. But basically, Adecco does all types of employment. So we do everything from staffing for temporary, doing temporary to permanent, or what I specialize in is permanent placements of people. So of course, it's a balancing act, because you need employers that are willing to pay you to find them really good people. And you naturally need the good people available and interested in those positions when you get such an employer. So again, I'm always, looking for great people. That's why I do a lot of interviewing, because I want to be ready to react if someone says, I need this, And obviously, when they come to me, by the time they come to me, they've either tried to do it themselves, they've done advertising, and they're at a desperate stage where they need somebody immediately. So that's what makes it a real challenge. They don't plan months and months in advance. It's something that you need to react to immediately. So that's what keeps the job so fascinating, is you never know what's going to come through the door tomorrow.
Yeah, it's all about people. Everything is about people.
That's right.
So what kind of skills and everything do you have to be a recruiter? Because you're a marriage broker now.
Right.
So what kind of skills do you have to do it well?
Well, I think the biggest thing, of course, is people skills. You have to be able to read people because, of course, I don't want somebody that's going to start a job and either quit because they're not happy or the employer is not happy, so they don't keep them. Because we obviously, have a guarantee with our placements. So you need to be able to read people when you're meeting them and talking to them to see, are they for real? I mean, are they really sincere? Are they just telling you things because they want a job and they really intend to keep looking? And so there are all of these factors that are involved when you talk to the actual candidate. When you're talking to the employer, naturally, when you even see a job description, so many job descriptions are different in reality, as you can well imagine. So the job that the person is really going to do is not really what's on paper. That is another cause of concern for some of these employees that start something and find that the job was nothing like they thought it was going to be. So it's a matter of trying to be a detective and finding everything out that you can from both the candidate as well as the employer.
That's a nice way of putting it. Because you're at the cutting edge. You're in the marketplace, at the cutting edge of the market. And it's just a matter of human nature that the people who approach the point of the market are going to be trying to sell their agenda.
Correct.
Which may not be true.
That's right.
And you have to find out when it's not true because, as you say, if one guy is buying something that isn't true, this is not a sustainable deal, not going to work.
That's right.
So you have to make them both sides be honest about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I do want to talk about the market itself, and I think this is very important for us to understand through you how the market is doing, because the individual person on either side of the equation will have an imperfect view of the market, simply
Correct.
because he's only one little part of the market. But tell us, how is the market for tech jobs? And I suppose we should define tech jobs. How is the market for tech jobs doing in Honolulu and Hawaii?
Okay, there are several levels of, quote, tech jobs, as you can well imagine. There's the hands-on tech, where you are using tools and you're installing equipment or you're installing software. So that's one level of, quote, tech jobs. Then it moves up the scale to where you're going to you are into the more analysis type thing, that you're becoming an analyst of analyzing either programs, software, writing code and that. So then that's a different level. Then it works its way up all the way to where you're the chief information officer, CIO. So there are many levels of tech. I've always felt that if you are really good and if you're very strong with your skill sets, you can always find a job. I mean, good people, are hard to find, but if you are good, you will always have a job. What I've been noticing more and more is people are looking for the education. At one time, it used to be, a bachelor's or equivalent. More and so now, it's a college degree. So that's extremely important to maintain your education. The other thing they're looking for is certifications. So it's not good enough just to have a college degree and to have worked a bit. But certifications, as an example, Cisco CCIE certifications, Microsoft MCSE, A+, Network Plus are becoming extremely valuable in the marketplace, and employers are putting that down as minimum requirements for what they're looking for.
So somebody comes to you, and the first thing you're going to do is, of course, appreciate, what they're like, their credentials, their people skills, whatever it is. But then you might give them advice to shape up their package. You might say, you're going to do better if you get certified. Now, let's talk again right after you get certified, right? Don't you have experience?
Oh, no, definitely. And in fact, lately, I've been telling some of these people that they say that they want a project management job. Well, what's extremely important then is that you get your PMP certification,
What's that stand for?
Project Management Professional.
Okay.
And things of that nature. Just as if you wanted a tech job, it's important to become A+ or Network Plus certified, because that then signifies that you've got the coursework and, of course, the experience to handle the job. So it's becoming very competitive. There are a lot of people that are getting these certifications or have them. So if you don't have them, then it puts you at a disadvantage.
So sometimes the individual should not even put himself or herself into the marketplace until this is all squared away.
That's right, because they'll have a better opportunity, or the opportunity, or the doors will be more doors will open up for them if they, have those certifications.
Got to have the package ready.
Correct.
It also strikes me. I don't know if this happens to you, but a person in your spot, you can see somebody walk in, and this person is really well qualified, good skills with people, good technical skills, good conceptual skills. and you say to yourself, this person could be an entrepreneur, could start his or her own company, and for the lack of companies that may want to hire him, we'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe it's easier to make your own employer than look for one. Do you ever have that conversation?
No, I do, mainly because I've been an entrepreneur. I've had my own company, so I know what it's like. And obviously there's pros and cons, but you do find the rare individuals that would be better being their own boss as opposed to working for someone. So yes, that may come about as part of what takes place.
There's no fee in that.
No.
Just good advice.
Except that if this person does start their own business and at some point may need employees, and so it does, what goes around comes around, and it still may open up opportunities.
Yeah, and by the way, just before we take our break here, I just want to clarify that in this kind of deal, what you do as a recruiter, the employer pays the fee.
Correct.
The employee didn't have to worry about that.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's
Correct.
very cool. Okay, that's Sandra O'Hara. She's a tech recruiter, probably the most famous tech recruiter in the state of Hawaii, and she works for Adecco. Adecco, see that? Adecco, there it is, Adecco. Okay, and this is ThinkTech Talks, and the title of our show is Find Me a Tech Job, Please. Okay, we'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here with Sandra O'Hara. She's a tech recruiter with Adecco, and here on ThinkTech Talks, we're talking about Find Me a Tech Job, Please. There was a time in the early 2000s, Sandra, where everybody wanted to go into tech. They were coming back from the mainland, all the Pauahana kids, I call them kids, but they were kids, and wanted to get into the business here. And they found, that the 221 companies that had a little money, they were able to hire, but a lot of others couldn't, because the company has to have money to hire.
Correct.
And so, it kind of slid down a slope there toward the end of 2000, toward 2010. And I wonder where, and they left. You must have seen that. Mm-hmm. A lot of them went back from whence they'd come, the East Coast, what have you. Skilled people that, could have built a great industry here, all gone. So what's it like now in terms of the bodies, as it were, of these tech people, who could do amazing, miraculous tech here in Hawaii? We have them?
We do. You're right, we did lose people that went back to the mainland. But part of that, of course, is due to the fact that Hawaii pays 20 to 30% less than the mainland. So naturally, these people that either moved here or that returned home took a pay cut. The other thing that some of these employees didn't realize before coming over is that Hawaii is an extremely unusual place to work. The culture is so different. They didn't realize, besides the pay cut, that the culture, plays a lot into the actual job itself. So that again caused them to come but then leave. So I think what that did, though, is made a lot of the employers here a little gun shy of someone that's fresh from the mainland.
Sure.
That says, I want to stay here. I've made my move to paradise and I'm never going to leave. It's because, they got hurt because so many of them did leave within 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
The market now is, in tech and as well as other fields, is busy because we've got a booming construction industry. So as a result, there's a need for people that are in that industry, but also the technology part of it, where if you can fine tune your skills, even construction is into high tech. The programs, the software, the 3D, all of that is coming into play.
You are covering more ground now.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, what about companies like Adecco? DevLeague. They are full-time teaching people how to program in various, programming languages and all that. And they're generating some very sophisticated graduates. And so it seems to me there's a kind of, I wouldn't call it a broad-based resurgence, but a resurgence of people who have learned to be skilled in computer science here. Do you find that? Do you find that there's a resurgence of any kind happening?
Well, I'm even seeing it as something as basic as CAD people.
CAD is a good example, yeah.
Yes, because there's a need for CAD people now, or an increasing need because of this construction boom. But they want people that are at the top level of CAD, of their CAD skill sets. So it's not just basic CAD, it's being able to do 3D CAD, it's being able to do much more sophisticated CAD. So it does behoove all of our future employees that are looking for that type of tech work to again gain those skills, get experience, and get some practice in it as well.
CAD, computer-aided design, is good for engineering, architecture,
Correct.
and construction in general.
Right.
But if I pose to you the possibility, for example, that rail will stop, there's a few billion off the table there. And their construction, maybe we'll have construction in housing as we should, but construction in general won't be as robust as it has been or as it is right now. Then those jobs may not be so numerous. Yeah.
Correct, but I still think that there's years down the road of construction. If you look at all the high-rises that are on the books or coming up, so there's still going to be a need for those types of skill sets even without rail for years to come.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that, and this is a good example of the fact that computer technology is useful in every field of human endeavor, and it's getting more sophisticated. So the man on the street, assuming he knows nothing right now, in order to get into that field, he has to learn some sophisticated technology. Not everybody does.
Correct.
The people who do learn that, they're entitled to compensation for that. And you're there. You're there putting sophisticated, skilled computer science people together with companies that may not be tech companies, but that use tech.
Correct, because we even do testing of our potential employees just on basic skills like Word and Excel and all, and those are all important. Even if you're just answering the telephone as a receptionist, these employers still want you to have these computer skills. So it's becoming more and more of a requirement, and it will be increasingly so.
Okay, but now I want to shift gears and go to the other side. I don't know, just a few days ago, we had a tech recruiter come in on a mainland company. She was here sitting in that seat. In fact, two of them, and they were talking about their difficulty in finding qualified employees. So that's different. I mean, here they had lots of jobs. They couldn't find the qualified employees. Now, what's your experience? Are we short in jobs or employees? Is it a match?
Well, I think it depends. I think the recruiters that you were talking about were looking for some specific skill sets, because military, and that's right. And with the military, the challenge there is that they need to have very high-level security clearances, especially work at Camp Smith. And yeah, those are rare, but if you know where to look, there are people out there that are looking for the good jobs and have the clearances. They're the military people that are coming out of the military that possess those clearances that are employable. And so I think it's a matter of knowing where to look, and that's the reason why the military is always having job fairs, because they want us to be there and to assist their people who are getting out of the military with finding good jobs and staying in Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh, good for a win-win-win.
Right.
But can we say that in the case of the military, which is largely tech, I mean they have huge tech systems, sophisticated clearances too, that there are more jobs than there are applicants?
I believe there are more jobs than there are qualified applicants, mainly because the contracts, military contracts, have been cut back with sequestration, with all the different cutbacks in the federal spending. And so that's the reason why, you do find this imbalance right now.
Yeah. Now, in the other side, forget the military part, forget Camp Smith, forget security clearances, but the same sophisticated computer science requirements. Is the market in balance?
Well,
or if not, who's leading? You know, who has the goods and who doesn't?
Yeah, that's a very tough question because it changes. You know, it's like a moving target, and this week it might be, you know, this side, that the next week it might be something else. So it really, really depends. But this is why I've always felt if you are extremely capable and competent as an employee, you will always be employable, and there's always going to be a place for you.
Yeah, even in Hawaii.
Even in Hawaii.
Where it's always a little different.
Right, right.
And a little less compensable.
Right.
So I asked you before, you know, about what you needed to do to shape up in order to, you know, get the job you wanted to get by way of certification, whatever. But you mentioned security clearances a minute ago for the military in general. If I decide, Sandra, that I want to go to Camp Smith and work in doing some kind of computer programming up there, and I don't have a security clearance, how do I get one? Is there an office of security clearances? And I file an application online? What do I do?
Well, that is a very challenging question because ever since 9/11, they have become extremely strict with handing out security clearances. So our office can sponsor people and can give these clearances out, but it's not like it used to be. So therefore, the potential job has to say that they will take a person that is clearable. We can then start the clearance process. The clearance process, we can help. The clearance process, if you have not traveled overseas a lot, if you aren't married to a foreigner that's on the list or whatever, could take as short as 24 to 48 hours to get an interim. With an interim clearance, you usually can start working on the job. It may take as long as a full year to get a final secret.
It's a long wait if I'm hungry.
That's right. That's right. But in the meantime, you are working, so it's not like you don't have an income coming in.
Okay.
But unfortunately, you cannot buy one. You can't buy the clearance. You can't go any place to get one. You need to be sponsored, and the person that sponsors you needs to have the job that allows you to step in to do it without the clearance.
Yeah. So you're really a principal operator, I mean, a principal player in that whole process. If I don't know how to get one, you can actually help me get
Oh,
one.
yeah.
And be my sponsor or find a sponsor and all that.
As long as there is a job that says we'll take you on as long as, you are clearable. You see, there's a lot of people that can't pass that test.
They should do something else.
Because of something in their past, because of some monetary, issues, et cetera, so they can't ever get a clearance.
Yeah.
So that, is really unfortunate. But yes, it's a fine line, and it's definitely a challenge.
I remember reading right after Snowden. You remember him?
Yes.
You didn't place him. Never mind.
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
I remember reading that there was something like 1.5 million people in this country who had secret or top secret security clearances. And my God, when I was in the service, I didn't know anybody who had a security. I figured the captain of the ship, he must have one, but I didn't even know. And the communications officer, he had to have one, but most people didn't have them, and they didn't know anybody who had them. And now we have tons of them, and a lot of them are civilian, which is interesting, because somehow the civilian he goes home at night. He doesn't spend his time, in the ship and all that. So he's less controllable, certainly as Snowden was less controllable.
Right.
And I wonder how that works these days. I mean, post 9/11, post Snowden, I expect it should be harder to get a security clearance, especially if you're a civilian.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
you found that.
And they are requiring it more and more, on the jobs, mainly because they're trying to prevent what had taken place. So that's why you've got such an increased amount of people that have the clearances, or that the clearances are required.
Yeah. So if I go to the military, say Camp Smith, I say, look, I like a nice job, and I like to be handling very sensitive information, and I like to be a civilian employee, and I like to be in the same kind of situation that Snowden was in. And my ideology, I might change it because I'm 29 years old, and I can, I might decide that I don't really like the government. Am I going to be able to get a job? I mean, the point is, can you get a designer job in terms of security clearance, in terms of military job? Can I find my way? I don't want to use the word mole, but find my way into a sensitive position in a security clearance situation, by my option, you know what I mean? I make the call, I find the job, I get in there, or is that the kind of job that's really not published?
Well, it's a job that probably it's not realistic because you need to be sponsored, and getting the clearance has become so extremely difficult these days that what you're describing is probably not a realistic situation that could ever happen.
Okay, happy to hear that. On behalf of the people of the United States, of this great country of ours, I don't want to see another Snowden.
Right.
I mean, he may have had, ideological dreams and whatnot, and some people like what he did, but the reality is, if everybody acted like Snowden,
That's right.
what kind of country? I mean,
That's right.
We
We'd be
wouldn't
in
have any
trouble.
control over anything. Okay, so let's talk about the ordinary tech jobs here. You have to have a company, an entrepreneur would have a company like Gordon Bruce, Paxa, his company, a tech company that is identified as such. So they come to you and they say, Sandra, we would like to post a job with you and see if you can find somebody for
That's
it.
right.
That's the way it works.
Yes.
So the whole engagement starts there.
Exactly.
And then you go out and you publish and you put something, the press, the newspaper, the
Not
social
necessarily,
media?
not necessarily, because I do have a really big database of people that I start going through and calling. And then I start sending qualified resumes of people that are either interested or available to the client. And then they review them and they decide who they want to meet, if they want to meet any of them or all of them. And it's only until such time that they actually hire somebody, does the transaction, is the transaction complete. So that could take a very short period of time, or it could take, it could take months, depending on
Depending on the skills
exactly,
you're looking for.
Exactly.
But it sounds to me like you have client relationships on both sides. In other words, Gordon Bruce and Paxa, I don't know if they're a client, but they come in and they say, Sandra, we need these to fill these 5 jobs. Okay?
Correct.
Now you have that in your database on that side of the ledger. Now you're looking, but you're creating your own private clientele who you represent, who you counsel with, who you shape up, for the best possible result. And then you say, well, Gordon, I got somebody like this, and this, and if you think it's okay, I'll talk to those people. I mean, how does that work? Or do you go directly to that person and say, I have somebody for, you know what I'm talking about? It's the secrecy thing. It's the confidentiality thing. And it has to work its way into the center. But you can't divulge all until you reach a point where, talk to us.
Correct. Well, basically, once a client says, oh, I have a requirement for a database administrator or a system analyst or whatever, and we are engaged to do this, then I go to my database and find the potential candidates that might fit the job description.
This is your database.
That's right.
These are your people.
That's right.
Your
I've talked to them.
inventory, so to speak.
Exactly. Or I might be making calls through other sources, maybe through LinkedIn or anything, to find some qualified people. Once I have found these qualified people, then I will proceed to send resumes over to the client for them to analyze and for them to say, oh yes, I'd like to interview, A, B, and C. And then at that point, then I coordinate the interview and start checking references and things of that nature.
You don't stay at the interview, though.
Not at all.
That's-
No, not at all.
Not there.
Not at all. And so again, hopefully, once they've decided on one of the candidates that they have interviewed, then that's when they've generated an offer letter. And hopefully the candidate is already primed to accept this offer letter and can start either giving 2 weeks notice to their current employer or can start right away.
So all things being equal, everybody, primed and shaped up, how long does this process take? I guess you suggested it's a week or 2?
It could be as short as a week or 2, especially if a person is not currently working where they don't have to give notice.
Right.
It could be as short as, a week.
Or otherwise, it could be a month.
Or it could be a month or
whatever
more.
a reasonable notice period is.
Correct.
Okay. Well, do you find that this is getting easier in your years of experience, or do you find that it's getting harder?
Well, having done it for 15 years, I don't know if easier is the right word, but it's certainly, it's such a learning experience that I learn new things all the time. So I love what I do, and as a result, I feel that I do it very well. But I learn things every day. I mean, because people are so unpredictable, as you can well imagine, from all aspects. And so that's what makes it so interesting is you cannot, say I can take this to the bank because I'm so sure that this is the way it is. Because you're dealing with people, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Sandra O'Hara, she's a tech recruiter at Adecco. Here's ThinkTech Talks, where we're working on a title called Find Me a Tech Job, Please. Oh, we'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week, we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Okay, Sandra O'Hara, we have, the best part about ThinkTech at the breaks, you find out stuff you can never repeat. If you want to know, all about Sandra, call her up. How can they reach you?
At 533-8889.
I love
like
when guests will give you their telephone number without hesitation. And Sandra O'Hara, she's a tech recruiter in Adecco. And so I wanted to go to the 50,000-foot level now. You've seen it, because the 15 years covers really the most important time when the tech industry might have, put roots down, might have expanded. And there are some people like me, I wish it had expanded a lot more, but I've known you probably that
That's
length
right.
of time. And we still want it to expand. Certainly you do. It's your livelihood. But query, where do you think the tech industry is going? Because you can see it on both sides. You can see the order of the applicants. You can see the solidarity of the companies, and you can see the way they change their needs. Both sides. So where are we in the continuum?
Well, the reason I think there's a lot of hope for the tech industry and it's growing is because, as you are well aware of, everything is going mobile now, right? All applications, we're getting more sophisticated to where there's going to be a requirement to have a lot more mobility in every phase of our lives, as well as, in the business world especially. So because of that, I think that the tech industry is changing, but will always be there and will definitely have new and more requirements as this mobile industry really is growing, and as people are going to be less tied down to desks, as they're going to be able to program their entire household and all their appliances, from being on the road. That's going to really change the boundaries and add a lot of sophistication to tech.
Yeah, and you think we can do it here?
Yes, I definitely think we can do it here.
It's funny. I used to make fun of it because, before, you will remember in the early 2000s, it was about, curing cancer. It was about doing nuclear physics, who knows what. It was about the grandest plans of the tech industry. We were going to have it here. And there were people who firmly believed that was going to be the case. I don't think people believe that anymore. We're probably not going to do those major things. We're not going to have a cyclotron in Pearl City, So the question is, so what's happened is we've gotten into those things like mobile apps. And they can be a huge effect on the world. Look at what the cell phone has become. I'm writing an article about hacking, and one of the most interesting parts of it is they got hacking on cell phones now happening. So people who write apps and have these small companies to write apps and know how to do that, they're very important. And so I guess what I hear you saying is something I've observed too. is that the tech industry in Hawaii is going smaller. I mean, smaller things, cell phone apps, maybe computer programming on websites, things that we thought were relatively small a few years ago have become big because of the power of the devices.
Right.
So do you see it as that, only that, more than that, a combination of that? I mean, where is it going to go? Because, it's always changing.
That's right. But the fact that we've got so many companies here that are doing marketing overseas and selling Hawaii hotels, selling Hawaii goods and services into the Far East, and they're doing it over the web, and that's ever increasing. The fact that we have even in our own backyard someone like Hank Rogers that did Tetris. I mean, it just goes to show that we have some real talent here that is just going to grow and change, and is going to enhance the entire industry.
How about, do you get involved in things that are other than information technology? For example, microbial biology, laboratories at the research building in Japsa?
Haven't gotten so much involved with that whole medical side of it. I have done things that aren't directly related to tech in terms of, even just simple administration or admin assistants, personal assistants, accountants, things of that nature, facility managers, but not so much in the medical field.
Mm-hmm. Seems to me that, what's happening in Hawaii, if you look at where the bright lights are, it's in information technology. It's in the cloud, it's in programming for apps and programming, for enterprise solutions. And that's where we have to study. So if I want to study here, if I'm Joe Schmo, and I wake up one morning and watch this program, and I say, Sandra's right, I have got to get my act together. Where do I go to study this? Where do I go to make myself ready for you?
Well, besides the obvious, which is the University of Hawaii, the community colleges, as you know, there are schools that are doing just tech training, PCAT, and some of these others. And if you already have your degree and kind of want to just embellish it and enhance it and get more into tech, I would work towards getting certifications, such as, the very basic things.
So
like
anybody
A+.
can do that?
Anybody can do that,
You don't
absolutely.
have to go to UH and take a PhD for this.
Not at all.
Yeah, very important.
Yes.
And that's one of the miracles of our time.
Right.
You can learn it at home in your skivvies. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that you can even, a lot of people do self-study. They use, you can buy books at the bookstore. So, you don't have to go to a formal class. If you're disciplined enough to do it on your own, then all the more power to you, but it's definitely doable.
And that's why the certifications are important, because the certifications will substitute for a degree.
Correct.
And they're perfectly credible for a degree. So knowing what you know, about the people out there, I go reverse. Knowing what you know about the industry and the companies and the people who are out there, what kind of tech company would you establish today to be most likely to get the highest quality of employees? I mean, ones where they're out there, they don't have jobs yet, and you want to take advantage of that competence, of that resource in our community. What kind of company would you establish?
Oh, that's a very tough question. I mean, the one thing I would do, though, that seems to be a little lacking here is we still haven't gotten into a lot of telecommuting. And I think that has tremendous potential for finding people that either need to work from home because of the situation they're in, or want to avoid the traffic.
Physical limitations.
That's right.
What, yeah.
That's right. And that's one thing that we haven't really, embraced totally, like California has, or like the mainland has a lot. So if I were to establish a tech company, I would try and look towards getting into something where you could get top talent and they could telecommute, so that you could get the best of the best. That's one area I think that's kind of untapped. I was involved in a program many years ago where they tried to establish a test bed out in Mililani, and they got several different big companies as well as some state departments to let their people work there and telecommute, but you had to live in that area. It was extremely successful. These people were healthier, they were happier, and they loved it. And it's really unfortunate that it didn't get adopted as a major program because it proved out to be, just fabulous.
This is with health technology?
No, it was just a wide range of the taxation department had some people out there, IBM had some people out there. It was, a variety of a handful of companies that were set up to telecommute. So their employees didn't have to come all the way into town to work. They worked from the Million High Tech Center.
There's a benefit there because your employees have an easier time of it. They can be more effective, more efficient, get more done.
It was huge because, these women that, couldn't take care of their families were always buying fast food because, they weren't, they had to commute 2 hours every day to get home and all. Here, they lost weight, they were happier, their family was much healthier and, more cohesive. And as employees, they were just extremely happy. So I was very disappointed that that didn't take off more and get more accepted overall because it did work so well.
Yeah, well, Kevin Hughes, remember him?
Yes.
He was involved in a company, he had a lot of time at this table. He was involved in a company that had a global arrangement like that, where they had multiple, it was headquartered in India, but it had offices everywhere, and all these guys would get up at various times in the morning, and they would talk to each other, and they would have these, net meetings, and they could build any kind of software.
Right.
And it's true. So what you're saying is, any tech company, but if you want to use the resources out there, make it a telecommunications, rather a telecommuting company. Yeah.
Right, right.
Okay. That's good advice. Any other company that you can think of that would be, appropriate to the workforce now?
Besides telecommuting, I'm just trying to think. And the mobile app thing I really see is huge. And so getting into very sophisticated, very unique mobile apps is something.
Do it here.
Oh, definitely. We've definitely got the brain power and the talent here to do things like that. Yes.
Okay, flipping it over on the other side. If I'm just getting out of school, either high school or college, what do you urge me to get into? What do you urge me to study? I guess you're saying computer science and mobile apps would be useful. Because you see this as coming together in Hawaii.
And just engineering in general seems to be, be it mechanical, electrical, computer science engineering, seems to definitely have tremendous potential for any of our young people coming out of school.
So you think this can be a substantial industry here? I guess let me add to that. What about something like Act 21? What kinds, an incentive maybe that says we're going to give you a break on your tax, so we're going to allow investors to have a break on their investments. We're going to make a public statement, a governmental statement that we like a tech industry. We want to, encourage people to go into it. Do you think that would help?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, of course, I, like you, I was so disappointed to see that just kind of go by the wayside because I think it did generate a tremendous amount of activity, a tremendous amount of interest, investments, jobs, everything. During the time that it was around, and so I'd be very hopeful that people recognize that and might look to bring it back again.
Yeah, it would solidify what you've been talking about all hour. Yeah.
Exactly.
My last question for you, Sandra, is so are you recommending that people go into tech recruiting as a job? What do you think? Can you stand the competition?
Well, they always say competition is very healthy, and so as far as recommending people do that. I love what I do, and it's a wonderful field. It does, take a lot of patience because you're dealing with people again, and they're not predictable at all. So it does take that, but it's just a wonderful career, and so I'm, thrilled to be in it.
That's great. Thank you, Sandra O'Hara, tech recruiter with Adecco. This is the one, Adecco, here on ThinkTech Talks. Find me a tech job, please. We'll check back with you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. It's been a pleasure.
Aloha.